Heather Luna. I'm a clinical herbalist. I'm also a clinical nutritionist, and I'm a Vitalist practitioner. I'm the mother of the ACORN School of Herbal Medicine. I'm inviting you to join us for the Advanced program in Vitalist Herbalism. This is a healing journey. It's designed to bring clinical practitioners into their full body of knowledge and train professional aspects of using herbs, nutrition, lifestyle changes, and of course all the aspects of nature. This program begins on August 17th, and we are accepting applications until August 10th. The reason you might want to attend is to deepen your knowledge in a way that will guide you into real brilliant practice and a fulfillment of offering those transformative healing services for our clients and for those that need us. Professional herbalism doesn't end with just learning how to use herbs. It really begins with understanding the context and the ecosystem of an individual and applying lifestyle changes, nutrition, and all the elements of nature alongside your herbal practices. So we have two prerequisites for this program. One is you should have some prior training in knowing how you're using your herbs and understanding materia medica, some basic therapeutic applications. And this would mean something like attending our Footprints program or an equivalent program. If you're not sure if your previous education qualifies, you can reach out to me in an email and we can discuss where you are in your training and see if it's a good fit. The other prerequisite is that you must have a genuine calling within you to practice the healing arts. It is absolutely a guided practice. We practice serious clinical evaluation, but we also take into account a holistic human being and that spiritual guidance that brings us into our purpose and calling in life. So what this program entails is learning to do a complete, thorough intake. And this process can take about 3 hours just to get the person's story right. And it doesn't end there. Once you've got their story, you have to sift through it and unravel it, write it down, come up with assessment. And then you have to meet with follow-up sessions where you negotiate treatment plans, see if they're working, and revise and do step-by-step treatments along the way. We often find that when you do just the intake, you can give a few remedies right off the bat, but you have no idea if they actually worked until they come back for that follow-up session. Learning how to run that whole process and carrying someone through their complete transformational healing journey is exactly the steps that we're providing you in this program. Becoming someone's herbalist means you're going to be holding their hand, and we train you in exactly how to do that. You will learn how to look up all of their medications, nutritional supplements, sift through the aspects of their own life in every way, their personal relationships, their occupation, their sleeping habits, and these are the details that get into performing those follow-up visits and allowing us to do really deep casework where you can unravel someone's entire chronic illness, and by the end of a few months you can see someone not be the same person they were when they walked in the door. So welcome to the Medicine Garden, where we'll be doing a lot of our virtual herb classes and field walks. We'll be doing field walks here as well as some bioregional herb walks out in our local landscape. But I want to tell you what they entail. We'll be looking at plant identification, we'll be looking at harvesting techniques, we'll be doing some fresh plant medicine making in the fields. We'll also be doing some really beautiful practices with plant communication and building really deep relationships with nature as a powerful aspect to getting a practical experience in using plant medicines in a professional practice. Another important aspect to our field classes, of course, is learning foraging. For those of you who are interested in wild edible plants, and of course cultivation as well. Here in the garden we do a lot of cultivation of our own plants, so we'll be showing you some strategies for sustaining your own medicines and taking care of the medicines that take care of us long term. And the ethical part of that is knowing when not to harvest, especially when we're out in the wild. So we'll give some really clear techniques on when wildcrafting is acceptable and when it's not, and how much to take from a particular stand so that we can make sure that these medicines are around for generations to come. So in this program, we are big proponents of personal experience. Practitioners should never recommend something to somebody else that they haven't tried in their own body first. So we will be guiding our students to make remedies for themselves, make lifestyle changes, and also make some nutritional changes so that you have a deeper experience and awareness of how you'll be facilitating healing for others. So I've been practicing herbal medicine in this fashion, the Vitalist tradition, for 20 years now. I began my studies in the late 90s with Paul Bergner. He became my primary mentor. He trained me in clinical nutrition, he trained me in Vitalist medicine, and today it is a privilege that I get to carry on his work and invite him as co-faculty on this program. You will be getting the first-hand guided experience of working with Paul, as well as with me alongside him. But he is the primary facilitator of this program as the instructor of the core materials and the creator of all the lectures and topics that we'll be talking about. And it is with great pleasure that I get to introduce him to you for his handheld guidance in this wonderful program.
Hello, my name is Paul Bergner. You can think of 3 stages to education in any field. The first is learning tools, terms, and concepts. For instance, in gardening, you would learn this is a hoe, this is a rake, and this is how you use them. And this is compost. And then a description of the processes of gardening, the philosophy of the meeting of good seed with good soil, tending and caretaking, planning your calendar, where to obtain seeds, principles of natural pest control, and so on. At this stage, a musician learns their scales. Okay. In herbalism, here you learn the basic materia medica and principles of formulation, how herbalism and diet interact in healing, and the basics of physiology and pathology, and the idea that an herbalist works in cooperation with the great life force and ways to support rather than suppress that force in its many manifestations. In the second stage of education, you learn how to apply tools, terms, and concepts. This is called applied learning. In gardening, you learn how to actually plant and manage a garden. And a musician learns how to perform actual music. In herbalism, here we expand our knowledge of materia medica. We learn practical therapeutics with lifestyle, diet, nutrition, and herbs for the common chronic pathologies and specific conditions in our society. You learn clinical skills sufficient to get the full story from your patients, recognize patterns, and negotiate a treatment. Students at the ACORN school learn tools, terms, and concepts in the Footprints program and learn how to apply them for self-care, family and friends, for general health, and acute symptoms. This advanced program continues applied herbalism education with a focus on chronic illness and will prepare you to sit with patients, get their stories, recognize and assess patterns, and to negotiate with them the next step in their healing. The third stage of education is case-based learning, and this is actual practice seeing patients with mentoring and supervision by a seasoned clinical herbalist. Students at the ACORN school are greatly enriched to have case-based learning woven into all their programs, observing and assisting with patient intakes from the very first monthly clinic. This continues in this advanced program. In this advanced program, we will prepare you for case-based clinical learning, where you then enter into a phase where each new patient is the next chapter in your lifelong learning, case-based education, whether that comes to you in a teaching clinic at a school or through your personal practice. I've been practicing almost 50 years, and I continue to view each case as my next lesson and to learn something new from every patient and every case. We will prepare you to do this. I've been training students in Advanced Herbalism since 1996, preparing them for clinical work and then mentoring them in teaching clinics, supervising and reviewing all their cases. I've mentored more than 400 students through this process, observed the stages of their personal growth, and seen the outcomes of many thousands of their cases. In the course of this, I and my companion clinical faculties in these schools have come to recognize the trajectory of learning that the student moves through, both technical and personal, as they become established in this calling. In recent years, I have come up with a dream list of the skills, knowledge, and personal inspiration I would like to see as a student completes their advanced training and enters into clinical work and clinical training. The course material in the ACORN Advanced Program is that dream list. I've developed some courses specifically for this program based on the cutting edge of my current concepts of clinical mentoring. I'm excited that in the COVID-19 pandemic, we've opened up possibilities in education that include both recorded learning outside the classroom and then gathering together in the virtual classroom. I believe this opens up possibilities, not just geographical, but for learning in new and more effective ways than the talking heads, nodding heads model of the traditional lecture classroom. In this program, we will take you deeper in the field of materia medica and patient-specific formulation. We will explore differentials, why we would select one herb rather than another for a particular patient, and also herbal analogs, herbs that can be freely substituted because they have similar net effects in the system. This way, we see a greater depth and dimension of our collection of medicinal plants beyond the "this is good for that" model of the herbs. We will teach effective synergistic therapeutics, integrating lifestyle, dietetics, nutrition, and medical herbalism for the common pathologies underlying modern chronic disease. We will teach how to walk the path of authenticity while engaging patients, hearing their stories, and negotiating with them for a treatment. In this program, we are looking above all for students with a sense of calling to work with plants in the context of healing. My philosophy of education is that each created being has a calling, a place in the great order, and is endowed with potential abilities to fulfill that calling. I believe that every being has an inner knowledge of that calling, in the quest of life to uncover it, cultivate it, develop abilities necessary to manifest it, and eventually to put oneself all into that calling. It's my experience that for the individual away from their calling, the universe conspires to make us miserable. For the one pursuing it, putting themselves all in despite fears or reservations, the universe conspires to make us succeed. Here we are looking for students who have a spark of that calling, and we see our role as to help you whip that spark into a conflagration. I hope to see you soon.
So I want to tell you a little bit about our name. The ACORN School of Herbal Medicine came up with an acronym as ACORN, standing for the Academic Community of Radical Nature Cure. In order to practice herbalism effectively, one must turn towards nature as the original instructor. Working with plants is working with the forces of nature. Nature Cure
is a healing modality as old as humanity itself. Our contemporary expression of it originated in the mid-1800s from German practitioners who used whole foods diets, restoration of the circadian rhythm, bathing and healing waters, movement in the fresh, clean air, and a skillful application of medicinal plants. This was practiced, of course, while spending ample time in natural landscapes and wild places. They found these methods to be curative of numerous conditions. It was from this tradition alone that modern naturopathic medicine was developed. In order to facilitate a cure, we must unpack the habits of modern lifestyle and restore the balance of nature's original instructions in human life. It is our mission to resurrect these principles in the practice of Western herbalism today. We are a learning community, and each one of us comes to this calling with something to offer. We learn directly from experience, from our own, of course, and from each other's. Every student on this path has the ability to become a teacher as well, not just for ourselves, but also for those we serve and for one another. The unique effects of herbs on one individual offer experience for all of us in the setting of a shared learning community. We cultivate a ferocious appetite for learning with in-depth rigor, and in our academic work, we strive for excellence. In defense of nature's ability to heal, we take a radical stance against those dominant medical practices that suppress life's innate healing processes. We are the resistance against distorted views of suppression which are known to cause harm and illness. We have come to call our school the academic community of radical nature cure, servants of life, lovers of trees, humble nuts of the mighty oak, ACORN.